Well, kinda. It's based on the Julian calendar, which is Roman calendar. And the Roman calendar is not God's calendar. Now, when did the Passover start? If we went back in history, 1,989 years ago. I'm going to try and get you to think like a Hebrew today, an Israelite.
Didn't their days start like at 6 o'clock in the evening?
Correct. So when did the Passover start? 1,989 years ago. Last Saturday at 6 p.m. Okay? Last Sunday was the Passover day. But last Saturday is when Passover started. And last Saturday evening, it was when Christ ate the Passover with his disciples and had all that teaching from John chapter 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, all happened last Saturday, 1,989 years ago. By the way, just a side point, we talked about this before a few weeks ago. If you're to go after 2 days, this event's going to happen. That means we're 11 years away, if our calendar's right, from 2,000 years from Christ's death till now. And that fits into creation was 404 BC. It's been about 2,000 years then since then. Roughly speaking, calendars can be off by 20, 30 years. And if there's anything to the theory, it's a theory that God created the world in 6 days, which is not a theory, it's true. The theory being it corresponds to our history timetable, which means we're getting close to the end because we've been on this earth about 6,000 years, not quite yet. And at 6,000 years, we enter into the kingdom age, which is a 1,000-year period for 7,000 years of this world. And the God's number of completion is what? God's perfect number is 7. Completion, 7. I don't know if it's true or not. That's the theory part of it. Anyway, is the PowerPoint up? Is it not working? We're trying to get the PowerPoint up. I have a PowerPoint here I can show you and show you pictures of what's the difference between a new moon and a full moon. New moon or full new moon or the first of the month. Right up. Anyway, back up. I'm up there? Okay. The new moon is when the moon is totally dark. Everybody with me? New moon, when you have no moon out there at all, it's totally dark. That's the first day of a Hebrew month. That's the first day of their month. Okay? Everybody with me? Have I lost you yet? You with me? New moon, totally dark. Everybody with me? Passover is how many days later? 14 days later. Leviticus chapters 21. So be 21 days later. Everybody with me? Okay? Excuse me, 21 days. 14 days later. 14 days later. 14 days later is when you have the what moon? Full moon, which is totally bright. So until then, we go from the new moon. See moon look like that. Is this going towards, this is about a quarter way through, getting towards the full moon. Everybody with me? You all on the same page? This is so from now on, you'll never miss the Passover ever again. Okay, you'll know when it's taking place. TV can't get it right. The Catholic Church and the Greek Orthodox Church don't agree. Probably the Greek Orthodox Church is closer to me. In some years, believe it or not, next year may be one of them, not for sure, I haven't checked yet. Some years, the day we celebrate Easter, Resurrection Sunday, is actually off by 3 months because we don't celebrate the calendar that just goes, the Hebrews go by celebrating Passover. We celebrate the calendar that worships Tammuz. Tammuz starts with the 25th of December. That was his birthday. Tammuz is in the Bible. Tammuz is in Ezekiel chapter 8 and 9. People are in the temple of God with their backs towards the temple, facing the sun, worshiping the sun. Our calendar is based upon that. And that's why we celebrate. It's all over the map. But it's all over the map, and the main reason is because the Hebrew calendar is different than our calendars. Their first day of the month is the 28th. Their month is only 28 days long. Ours is anywhere from 28 to 31. Okay? And because of the difference in days, every 3 or 4 years, the Hebrews add another month to the calendar to balance it out again. But some things are fixed. Okay, what kind of events are fixed? Winter equinox, spring equinox, winter equinox, winter solstices. I got the names written down. Yeah, springs and falls, and winter solstices and summer solstices, right? Equinox and solstice, which is basically, they're fixed, pretty much fixed, okay, when those take place. And they're just pretty much fixed. The winter solstice gives us the shortest day of the year, and the summer solstice gives us the longest day of the year, right? And the days start getting longer after the winter solstice. They start getting shorter after the summer solstice, right? Okay, we're all on the same page. So keep going forward. And this is the moon as it's going towards its cycles. There's a new moon, a full moon, totally bright. What day of the month is that? The Hebrew calendar? 14th day. So you have to get a calendar or your smartphone out, see what day of the week it is. You look at the moon and figure out where you're at. Okay, you know what day of the week it was, if you can tell the moon. Now, full moons are smaller. They get real bright, but it's a little bit off. I guess you get to train your eye, you can spot it. I've been trying to train my eye, and I haven't figured it out yet. So, and then the moons start going the other way. It gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it disappears, right? All right. So keep that in mind. Here's a cycle of the moons. You can see it there as a circle. This goes on a cycle, 28-day cycle. Here it is, a picture of it. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and you see it getting brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter until you get to the 14th day of full moon. And it starts getting lower. But there's several days it looks like a dark moon, and there's several days that look like a full moon, but they're really not all the same. You kind of have to watch your calendar to figure it out. And we get into those 4 seasons, which are the March equinox, which was spring, September, fall equinox. Then you have December solstice and June solstice, which is winter and summer solstice. The birth of Tammuz took place 3 days after the winter solstice because it's a resurrection of the sun, which they worship. That's why we celebrate the birth of Christ on 25th of December. It's not really when it was born. It's when Tammuz's birthday was. It's interesting, when you go to Israel and go to the birthplace of Christ, you'll see a cave they say Christ was born in Bethlehem. On that cave floor, there is a star. It's fun asking guys this question when you go there, because I ask those questions. How long has this cave and star been here? The star on the floor is actually called the Star of Tammuz. The place we attribute the birthplace of Christ has a star on the floor that commemorates Tammuz and goes back before the birth of Christ. Christ was not born in a cave anyway, but when you go on trips to Israel, they make up all kinds of stories and people put it on TV and people believe it after that. I mean, Hitler had the idea, tell a lie long enough, people believe it. It's like the news media today. They lie long enough, people are going to believe everything they're saying. But anyway, but that was based off the winter solstice, that holiday. And that's where we get our 40 days of Lent from. It's all based off of those things. In the Bible, we find the 4 days of Lent talked about also. Because when they had when they were weeping for Tammuz, they were celebrating that 40 days. So it's interesting today how even Christian churches today celebrate the 40 days of Lent and make Lent covenants and things, and it's not Christian at all. It's really right out of Baal worship. It's the blending of the two religions, which God hates. It has nothing to do with Christianity. Lent has nothing to do with Christ or Christ's birth. Now, Easter, which really is the word what? Estar. And that star was the goddess of fertility. Her Bible name was what? Ashtaroth. Ashtaroth. We don't know. When we read these gods in the Old Testament, whether they're male or female. Some are female, some are male. And the female deity in the Old Testament was Ashtaroth. Her husband was called Baal. The name in history, in the Bible, for Baal originally was really a man named Nimrod who built the Tower of Babel, which is the Babylonian religion as it comes all the way down through history, even until our day and age, because the Bible, the false religion in the book of Revelation is what? Babylonianism. It's still around. It's like, well, what God hated is alive and around as well today. It's all around us. But anyway, Easter is the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox. There's a mouthful for you. Now I'm going to try and explain it to you. It took me about 15 minutes to explain it to my own mind, so hopefully I can do better with you. I did my own mind. The spring equinox was on what day? Spring equinox was on, it stays the same year around. I think that's the 20th. Me and my wife got a big section on it, 20th of March.
It was the 20th this year.
Yeah.
But it was the 21st when I was growing up.
Okay. I know I'm getting that discussion right. Between the 20th and 21st, all right? And it kind of shifts because of the time of the day. The time of the day shifts all the time because we're not on a perfect 24-hour day. Y'all know that, don't you? We're not on a perfect spin of 24 hours. And I can't get into all that with you because I get real confused. I get there, but you read about that. But anyway, 20th to 21st, that was a full moon. And if you look at the sky on the 20th to 21st, you saw a full moon. Okay, so the first full moon after spring equinox was when then? Which is the first full moon, would be 14 days after the new moon. Are you with me? The new moon was before the spring equinox. The new moon was before the spring equinox. But Easter falls, or the Passover falls, 14 days after the new moon, which is when it's all dark, that comes, called the full moon, or that comes after what? The spring equinox. And when was that? When was that, or when was that? Nobody knows? You guys don't watch the moons for fishing and hunting, and I'm just kidding. It was Saturday night, Sunday morning. That was the new moon, and so that was the Passover. Right with me? I lose you all. So you never get confused again. In the month of Nisan, that's the first month of the Hebrews in their calendar. The month of Nisan, the first month is the first month of their year, happens in the time span around the equinox, the spring, or what is it called again? Spring equinox. Okay, don't ask questions, Marilyn. Okay, just listen, then I'll take questions from everybody else but you, because I'm having a hard enough time with this myself. And I think it's important because when I show you a few pictures in a few minutes, the one place you go to in Israel that's not a church. I have been to Capernaum. How big was the city of Capernaum, do you think, in the Bible days? You want to venture a guess? About 10,000 people. It was a big town. Had a synagogue in it. How big was the synagogue? About the size of our old church. This building here is bigger than the synagogue in Capernaum was. 10,000 people. It was a modest building, but not as big as this building, this auditorium building right now we're in. And who lived in the town? Peter and Andrew. Now, where were Peter and Andrew from? What towns were they from? Bethsaida. He got married and moved to Capernaum. He was from Bethsaida. Peter and Andrew was. And we see the disciples, we studied them, Philip and Andrew seemed to be pretty close. It was Philip one got Andrew, etc. But who else was from the city of Bethsaida? Philip was from Bethsaida also. Those things don't happen on purpose. But anyway, when you go there, they say where Peter's house was at, I've been in it before, Peter's house. And it's all it is ruins. It's just a foundation, really, you walk inside of. But they now build a church over it. You can't get into it anymore. I'm not holy enough to go in there. If I was a monk priest, I might be able to get in there, but maybe the Pope. But it's just this, you can walk. But years ago, when I first went there, back in the 80s, you could actually go into Peter's house and walk around. It was free access, but not anymore. It's a holy site now, whatever that means. But they built a church over it. You say, why do I say that? I say that because the only place in Jerusalem or Israel, when I go there, they've not built a church over it called a holy site is what? Well, Sea of Galilee, that's natural. It's too big to build a church over that. But Calvary, where Christ was crucified. Nothing there. They don't remember that day. And our calendars has it so messed up, we have a hard time figuring out what day Christ was crucified on in history. If you go back 1,989 years ago, Christ was crucified on our calendar this year on Sunday. I should have said something about that. This is really the crucifixion day. That's all. We're off. We celebrate these different holidays. Good Friday, because they think Christ was crucified on Friday. Christ wasn't crucified on a Friday because he was crucified on what day of the month? 14th day of the month. And the 14th day of the month changes. Okay. It goes according to the moon cycles. It changes. But anyway, he was crucified on the 14th day of the month after the full moon, which happened after the spring equinox. Okay, is that pretty simple now? The spring equinox happened on the 20th, the full moon after the 20th or 21st, depending on what year you're living in. The full moon was on the 27th, 28th, 27th, going into the 28th. Keep in mind, their days went from evening to morning. That's where it gets confusing again. I say 27th, 28th. Really, on their day, it would have been the 14th day. It would have started at 6 p.m. our Saturday night and went to 6 p.m. Sunday night. Everybody with me? Okay, so Christ was in the grave. And then he was buried before 6 p.m. on what we would say our Sunday. Okay? And Sunday night at 6 p.m. started their Monday. All right? So he started getting his first night in the tomb. Everybody with me? Have I lost everybody? Here's a calendar trying to help you figure it out. This is our calendar this year. Adar, I don't know how much you can see of that. I didn't bring a pointer with me. You can kind of see Adar up there. And you see up there on the 14th day of this year is Nisan 1. That's the first day of Nisan. That was the first day of Nisan because the 14th day of this year, we know it's the first day of Nisan because the moon was what? New, totally dark. That's how we know it was 14th day. The moon was totally dark. As you read the Bible, the only book of the Bible that I know of that uses Roman time is John. The rest of them, it says third hour, sixth hour, ninth hour. It's the Hebrew time. And so the third hour would be what? 9 o'clock in the morning. The sixth hour would be 12 noon. Ninth hour would be 3 p.m. Everybody with me? Only in John does it use Roman time. And some people get confused on that. Only John uses the Roman time schedule. So you take 14 days from a day, and you can see the full moon over to the right there, which was on the 27th in the evening, to the 28th. It's hard to get it just right because we go from noon to noon, midnight to midnight, and they go from 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. So, with that in mind, what is today? I think I'm right. If I'm off, it was yesterday, but I think it's today. Today is really Resurrection Day. You're in church on the true Resurrection Day today. We'll celebrate it on Sunday. 3 nights, 6 p.m. Well, to be honest with you, since it's past 6 p.m., we may be past Resurrection Day. Up till 6 p.m. this evening was Resurrection Day. Okay, I think. 3 days, 3 nights. The first day would have been when? what was left of Sunday. Everybody with me? What was left of Sunday. He had to be in the grave before 6 p.m., and this is why the calendars change and days change. And people say, I had an uncle of mine in Florida, just got in a discussion about it, and he finally admitted to me before I left that I was right, and he was wrong. But I said, I'm trying to be right. I just give me the scripture to prove me wrong. But heading him off the cross for the Passover. Well, the Passover, when there was Leviticus 23, when they celebrated the Passover, it was followed by a special feast day called Feast of Unleavened Bread. Special Passover. Okay, so the next day after Christ was crucified, special Sabbath, yeah. Special Sabbath, I said Passover. Special Sabbath. Okay, it was a special Sabbath. And then it was followed by the normal Sabbath in history. So this year, there would have been a big gap between the special Sabbath and the normal Sabbath. But the special Sabbath would have started when? 6 p.m. Sunday night, right? And last to 6 p.m. Monday evening. Okay? Then you go 6 p.m. Monday evening, 6 p.m. Tuesday would have been the next Sabbath. Everybody with me? Then 6 p.m. Tuesday to 6 p.m. Wednesday would have been the next day. In that first part of that day, 6 o'clock, 3 nights, 3 days and 3 nights, I think, or partial days and part night, would part of it, Christ had been engraved and he came out early in the morning. So really, technically speaking, since we're past 6 o'clock at night, Christ came out of the grave yesterday. But on this date, but it had been earlier yesterday than this morning. Wayne. No. I'm trying to think of any verse in the Bible that gives me any indication where you go in there. We had the watches called. There were 4 watches. Night ones are called watches. We have the hours, daytime. The 3rd hour, 9th hour, 12th, and the 12th hour had been the next day. So nighttime was really called by watches. And that's why the story of Peter, people call an error in the Bible. I loved it. My students in California did this one. Because I told the students in California I'd grow long hair, go to a motorcycle, smoke dope, and rob banks for a living until they could prove the Bible was wrong. And so they always try to get me on this one, that the Bible said, Jesus said, before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. Cock crow, singular. And Jesus also said, before the cock crow twice, thou shalt deny me twice. So which is it? They can't both be right. Or can they? They can be. Because in Mark, it talks about the different watches. And the last watch that started at 3 o'clock in the morning is called a what watch? Cock crow watch. Before the cock crow. That watch, 3 a.m. So before 3 o'clock in the morning, Peter denied him 3 times. And we know that Christ spent a couple more hours after that then in a big hole in the ground, Psalms 89, in a prison and Pilate's house, household, mansion, whatever. So, but anyway, we try to get all these dates right for, Christmas and all this stuff, but we celebrate Easter, which is Estar, goddess of fertility. That's why it's celebrated with eggs. Okay? Goddess of fertility. That's why rabbits, things multiply like rabbits. Anything that multiplies greatly are symbols associated with Estar. And that's why we call it Easter. And there's another problem. In the Bible, go to Acts. These are errors my students just try to give me. I loved them. Nothing like having a bunch of high school students in liberal California trying to disprove the Bible so their teacher grows long hair, drives a motorcycle, and smokes dope. And they never could show me an error in the Bible. Nobody still can. If you could, I would still do that. Because I have no faith anymore. I might as well eat, drink, and be merry because it's over with. But no, there's eternity with the Lord Jesus Christ. Plus, my life right now is so great. It proves to me there is a God who's taking care of me. But in Acts chapter 12, Many people call this an error in the King James Bible. I don't, because I don't think there's any errors in the Bible. And it all comes around this type of year. Acts chapter 12, and it says, "Now about that time Herod the king stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the church." And we talked about before, Herod was a what? He was a Jew. Biggest persecution of Christianity came from the Jewish religion. Hope you understand that. Until it changed, and then the biggest persecution of the church came from who? The Christians. We call them Christians. I don't know if they're really saved. They're persecuting Christians who come from Catholicism. And he killed James, the brother of John, with a sword. And because he saw it pleased the Jews, made them all happy, he proceeded further to take Peter also. Then were the days of unleavened bread. Days of unleavened bread. Go back to Leviticus chapter 23, verses 6 through 8. Remember I said there's a special Sabbath day, start the feast of what? I just went brain dead. I told you the name a minute ago. Feast of unleavened bread. Yeah, the Feast of unleavened bread was a special Sabbath day. Okay, and here he says there were days of unleavened bread. So did the Feast of unleavened bread come before or after Easter? Wasn't a trick question. I'm saying, okay, Passover. Passover. The day of unleavened bread come before or after the Passover? Leviticus chapter 23, 6 through 8. If you need a cheat. Did unleavened bread come before or after the Passover? After. Question then, was the Passover already over with? James was killed, Passover's over with, and they're celebrating the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which lasted for 7 days. Leviticus 23, 6 through 8. It lasted for 7 days. I lost you. It amazes me because there's so much confusion over where Christ was crucified. There's no church built there. It's a bus parking lot, and we can't even get it right in our own calendars. When God gave it the sun symbols that tell us exactly what it was, and Genesis 1 says, "I give you the sun and moon for what? Signs and times." So we would know. So we're really going to celebrate these days. We ought to really recognize the real day, right? That's just my lopsided thinking. That's why I'm taking the time to point out to you so you can kind of watch for in the future. So then were the days of unleavened bread. But when he had apprehended him, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intending after what? Easter. Y'all know what the Greek word is there for Easter, don't you? This is where the complication comes in. Pasquale, which is normally translated what? Passover. Why didn't they translate it Passover right here? Because they understood that the real Passover, the fake Passover that the Baal worshippers celebrated, or heathens celebrated, was after, but the real one was done over with. So this is a correct translation to call it Easter here, because this is Easter they're celebrating. Like when we say Sunday morning, and I'll probably be guilty, throw rocks at me or songs, books, I say we're here on Easter. I try always to say Resurrection Sunday, but Resurrection Day was earlier this week. We celebrate his resurrection every Sunday. I had a question this week asked somebody of me, why do we go to church on Sunday again? Somebody in Tennessee. Facebook me, and I hardly ever answer those things. Don't Facebook me to have me answer a question. But I said answer this one. I don't know why I read it and why I answered it, but Facebook Messenger. Somebody faced me with that from Tennessee. And I went through Hebrews 4 with them and explained to them how that we rest the same day Christ rested, and Christ entered into his rest on the first day of the week, which was the day of the resurrection. Okay, God entered his rest on the seventh day of the week was when he finished his creation. And that's all explained in Hebrews chapter 4, and that's why I believe the Sabbath is valid for the day. We just celebrate it on a different day. We celebrate the day Christ entered his resurrection because we celebrate Christ's resurrection every Sunday. So I say we're celebrating Christ's resurrection this coming Sunday. That is true. That's why we go to church on Sunday, celebrating the resurrection of Christ, because the day he finished his work. Now you know why we go to church on Sunday. But in Hebrews 4 it says there'll be another day, another Sabbath day. And it's the day that Christ entered in his rest. And the day he entered his rest is on the first day of the week. And that becomes a very big controversy because there's a Bible verse that says Christ rose again on the first day of the week. Again, they call this another error in the King James Bible. It's amazing how you got to change the Bible to make your theology fit. And it's in Mark 16, where it says, early in the morning, the first day of the week, Christ rose again from the dead. The Bible says it's first day of the week. And that one there, all you got to do is move the comma. And you can change that. How much do you believe in your Bible? It really depends on the position of the comma. Isn't that amazing? But the King James translators got it right here by calling this Easter because Passover was already passed and over with. This is Easter that Herod was mixing in and celebrating and waiting for it to be over with, which wasn't yet. And the mixing of religions between biblical religion and false religion, which is Babylonianism, or the Talmud, which is alive and well at the time of Christ, because Jesus said you're taking the word of God, it made no effect by your traditions. This is one of their traditions that made God's word no effect with. Anyway, all that to say, earlier today was the day Christ rose again from the dead. We're going to have Good Friday service on Friday. Like I said before, anytime people want to get to church to celebrate Christ, I want to do it. Pastor Taylor's come up here. He'll be here with this church, hopefully. I just talked to him today, and he'll be preaching. And we'll just celebrate Christ, and we'll talk about it on Sunday, a big day. People show up for breakfast and everything else. But if you wanted to see the sun come up the day that Christ rose from the dead, that was this morning. Okay. When you saw the sun come up this morning, you saw the sunrise of the resurrection. So I guess it boils down to how much the Bible really means to you. And to me, it means a lot. It's not a big deal, I know. I know the Lord doesn't care because he just wants us to worship him every day of our life. So he's alive and well. He's alive and well in my life. And there's so many evidences he's real. But anyway, I don't know if that was beneficial or not. I'll never get a chance to explain it ever again. Now, Marilyn, I'll take your question if I didn't answer it. I must have answered a question.
No, go to the next one. Okay, it's the one, it was not these, it was after these, it was the one I said, not that one, but it was that one. It was just all words. There. You have up there, Easter is the first Sunday after the first full moon after spring.
I'll stand corrected on Easter. Passover begins the 14th day after the first full moon after the spring equinox.
That's when Easter is too, isn't it? The first Sunday.
No. I don't think so. It depends whose calendar you're following. Some years, they're off by 3 weeks, so it can't be. It can't be following the same symbol, same dating. This year, they were pretty close, but not right on. But some years, they're off by over 3 weeks. I did that before. I showed it to you before in church. People remember that. The years has been off by 3 weeks. Anybody remember you doing that before? We've been off by 3 weeks. No, because the pagan Easter sometimes coincides with Passover, but sometimes it doesn't. I could take my word Easter off here, okay.
No, if the word Easter was off, it still wouldn't be right, because Passover is not the first Sunday after Passover is not a Sunday unless it happens to fall on a Sunday.
I didn't say it was on Sunday. It says on a...
That up there. Easter is the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox. That's what Easter is.
Could be. I don't remember when Easter was. Passover is the 14th day after the new moon, the full moon that comes after the spring equinox. The month started with the dark moon, spring equinox sits, then you go forward. Next year, it's a late celebration, and I should have done that one. Next year, I think it's middle of April, so it's way off from this year. It's a big difference from this year. I didn't take time to do the moon calculations on next year. I should have done it because it may illustrate my point I'm trying to make. But that's how you get to the real date. You get to the real date by the month of Nisan, which happens. The Passover happens at that point in time. Anyway, 28 days. This year, the new moon was on the 14th day. This year. If next year the new moon happened on, say, the 23rd, 24th, it throws everything off because where the spring equinox is at. I guess a better equation would be move it up till the 20th, and then everything would move back into April quite a bit, and vice versa. Anyway, you know it now. You can do it on your own. Just believe the Bible. And to me, the reason I point it out is because this slide right here, I'll show it to you right now, a little preview where we're headed. Look right there. That's Calvary. That's Calvary. See the two eye sockets, the nose, place of the skull, it's called in the Bible. That's Calvary. And this is Calvary. Bus parking lot. No church. No nothing. And it's getting worse because kids are trying to deface the place of the skull. It looked a lot better back in the 80s when I was there than it does today. They hate that place. And you can't miss this. It's called the place of the skull. You can't miss it. And when this picture is taken, I'm standing in the Garden of Gethsemane when I took this picture. That's how close the Garden of Gethsemane is to the place of the skull. And it fits the Bible narrative. Crucifixion goes on a busy street. That's the street not far from Calvary during rush hour, which when Christ was crucified. People were walking by mocking him. Now this is 2,000 years later, but it's a busy street. And actually, under this opening right here, this gate right here, you'll find the first century street that Christ walked on. Chariot wheels are still on the pavement and stuff. I've walked down it. It's under it because we keep destroying it, building it up and up. But anyway, and the more important thing is he became sin for us and knew no sin. Paid the price for sin. He rose again the third day. Died bodily, but rose again the third day. And we can have everlasting life, and he'll raise us again from the dead too. And he gives us victory over sin because he paid for sin. And he's taking care of me. I know he's alive because he takes care of me. I can actually say I am 70 years old, and God has always taken care of us. I did a picture today. My wife hasn't seen it yet. I'm going to show it to her later on the night. I put it together. It's a picture of me and her before we were married. And it's got a picture of all of our kids on it, underneath of it. And I thought to myself, did we even imagine this would be the result of our relationship? And everything else that God has done, he's paid for everything all the way through and taken care of us. It's just amazing what God has done. Amazing. Amazing. There has to be a God because of what he's done for me. People all my life said, you're the luckiest guy you know. I'm not the luckiest guy you know, but I have a good Savior that's taken good care of me. He really has. And I just believe the Bible. I don't think Acts is an error like they want to say it is. The mistranslation, I don't think that the cock crow is an error. It's answerable. It's explainable. Sometimes people actually question it, to research into it, but there's a watch called the cock crow watch, started at 3 o'clock in the morning. And the rooster and the cock crow watch were pretty simultaneously close together, one to the other. And Peter did that him 3 times, but when both happened, the rooster did go, and the cock crow watch, singular, did happen. The Bible's always right, even though you don't know the answer. And it's okay to say, I don't know right now, and I'll find out for you. Then find out. Ask somebody. Talk to somebody. Study the scriptures till you figure it out. Ask the Spirit of God to show you. There's no contradiction in the Bible. And that's why it's so important. Our children, our grandchildren, we also believe in the Bible. There is no other source of truth. There is none. Zero. Zap. And this world is getting so wicked. I told my wife today too, I said, no, knowing what I know today and where this country's at, I don't know if I had any kids. So I'm glad God didn't give me this advanced warning. Our kids are going to have a rough world living, but Christ is real though. So God will take care of them. So it's okay. I probably still would have had kids because God will take care of them. He'll see them through it all. Keep your eyes on the Lord and walk with the Lord. He'll get you through everything you go through in life. He got me everything I went through in life, and he's been really good. And he's taking better care of me now at this point in time in my life than he has at any other point in my life, which is makes no sense to me whatsoever. If I was the Lord right now, I'd be throwing me in a garbage pile somewhere, and he hasn't. He said he's taking better care of me now than he's ever taken care of me. It just gets sweeter and sweeter as the days go by. Like people say. I used to remember old preachers saying that, and you probably there saying, it can't be true. But it really is true. It just gets sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. And things you cannot even begin to imagine God does to take care of his children because he is God. He is God. Doesn't mean you won't go through hard times. Doesn't mean you might have the opportunity to die for your faith. That's okay. You know, I preached that missionary's message made to come after us. Persecutions will multiply 100-fold too. What an honor to suffer for the Lord. What an honor. What an honor. So, I've not suffered enough for the Lord. So you're asking for it, preacher. Okay. But as long as it's for the Lord, and if I suffer for the wrongdoings I do, I don't like that. That's not good. But suffering for the Lord, what more can you do than suffer for Christ? All right, let's break for prayer. Any questions, any prayer requests tonight? Any prayer requests at all? Any more prayer requests? What? I think I got a message from Ruth Huff's sister, Doris, had a stroke. Ruth Huff's sister, Doris, had a stroke. I think that came through tonight. So pray for Don Huff's wife's, Ruth Huff's sister. She lives in Minnesota. She had a stroke, and she was taken to the hospital. Any other prayer requests? Any others? No others? Let's break in groups and pray.